What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Berm, and today we're going to be talking about the Pokemon Yokohama World Championships and everything that happened there, doing things a little bit differently. Normally, I play on the VGC ranked ladder with fun teams that I like to share with my community. I think people watch my channel because I try and curate a little bit more of a chill vibe surrounding competitive Pokemon. And I usually try to stay pretty optimistic, pretty positive. I don't think that's going to change today. I'd like to try and bring some of what I try to make a chill vibe to what's going on, but there are some things that happened this past weekend at the Pokemon World Championships that, enough happened that made me want to talk about it, because I think it's important, and I think it actually could impact everybody interested in competitive Pokemon in the future. Pokemon Worlds was held in Yokohama this past weekend, August 8th to the 14th. VGC, TCG, Pokemon Go, Japan for most of the world. Not an easy place to get to, and therefore quite expensive to get to. A little bit more of a trip to plan than sliding on down to the Jersey Shore, let's say. Going into the tournament, there were other things that were minor controversies. The Yokohama Open, which was a tournament that every single Worlds has held for the past handful of years, in which points you win at that Open after you've already been eliminated from the World Championship event. Basically, the next day you then compete in the Open. It's the first sort of tournament that goes towards next year's pool of points. And a lot of people attend these World Championships for the fanfare, for the store, the merch, all this stuff, and to compete, even if they don't feel they have an ability to win the whole thing, they get to compete in this Open that contributes points to the following season. But they canceled that this year. This is for TCG, this article, but also VGC had a tournament like this one as well. It was canceled going in, and because Japan is expensive for a lot of people to get to, a lot of people were disappointed by this. Another piece of controversy this year in VGC, not technically the Pokemon Company, I don't believe. I believe that Korea's competitive scene is handled by a different company, but we had that whole thing happen in which the Korean players at what is their national tournament, the top four got disqualified. There were so many controversies going into how they were earning their points, and there were irregular systems in place for people to be able to earn points online in tournaments, but the matchmaking was mixed up, and so you could play the same person over and over, so people were able to get points by just playing against their friends over and over and like insta-losing. Like, there was just a lot going on, and as a protest, the top four players in that tournament locked in 6 Pokemon that all had Metronome, and instead of getting to do that and perform their protest, the Pokemon tournament disqualified all 4 top players, which was a very bad look. Those points go towards Worlds for Korean players, and so that was something else that happened relatively earlier this year before going into this Worlds. Now we get to this Worlds. And on the first day of playing, we start seeing these cases of players getting disqualified during the tournament. Got disqualified from Worlds last round on 4 and 2. So many effort put in this season for literally nothing, canceling the Open less than 1 month before Worlds, as I mentioned. And this new hack check last minute. We spend money for this. We need respect. We also see, I won my win and in to advance to day 2, you thought. They DQ'd me after seeing me click the winning move and told the losing player he advanced. Truly heartbreaking. I put so much time, work into Pokemon to get this result. I need to revise my decision to continue playing Pokemon, as the joy has become pain at the moment. DQ'd at 2-0. Should have gotten the Mons myself. Half my team was modified Gen. Didn't have Legends Arceus to get the Lando. And didn't have my copy of Sword and Shield to get Urshifu. I tried trading for the Mons from a reputable trader, but the Mons didn't pass. Basically, they were going around with this new advanced hack check method at Worlds on the day that was disqualifying a lot of players that were using Gen Mons, or Mons that are generated and then put into your game rather than training up the Mons and hatching them and catching them yourself. And those Mons were passing hack checks throughout the season, throughout the year. Then suddenly at Worlds, they were getting flagged and disqualified for it, or in some cases, people's individual Mons were being taken away and they could only play with 5 Mons or something, which is an obviously huge disadvantage. And then those people didn't end up advancing to the next day because they were at a clear disadvantage. You know, there's obviously a pretty large discourse in the community regarding having to make the Mons yourself and genning the Mons. I'll go ahead and say my stance on this right now. I think genning is completely fine. I think that they're, you know, prior to this, certainly, you know, you want to be a little bit meek about it because you don't know how people are going to feel about it. Making Pokemon, you know, is technically the rule, right? You have to make your own Pokemon. But the games, while they've gotten better, have never allowed for you to be able to make your Mons in any kind of timely fashion. It's just never been the way. And for people who compete in these tournaments, some of which happen the next weekend after the one that just happened, you know, they don't have the time to make these things. And genning your Pokemon, because the game itself doesn't allow you the ability to do it in any sort of timely way, you turn to other methods, which is just genning Pokemon that don't give you a competitive advantage. These Pokemon can only have the legal moves, stats, Terra typings, forms, all of that has to be legit. It's just whether or not you hatched them on yourself, caught them on yourself, added the IVs, grinded for the Terra shards, things like that. And I think the issue is that they allowed it all year, and then suddenly at this very expensive tournament, this tournament that people sort of plan their entire year around, right? Japan, you got to get your plane ticket super early, figure out where you're going. They canceled that tournament. One of the 2 tournaments that people rely on is like, oh, I'll still have something to do even if I don't do well. They got rid of that. And then as people were playing their games on the day of the actual giant big Worlds tournament, they start DQing people, and people get removed. Not that it matters to anyone other than me, but if the new hack check procedures continue into regionals and NAIC, then I'm out. I've really enjoyed my time with the game. VGC is awesome, but that's not how I'm going to spend my time. This sentiment is shared among a lot of people. We have Reversal here saying, I honestly feel awful for the people who spend thousands to compete at Worlds to then just get DQ'd. I understand fair play, absolutely, but I just can't help but feeling bad for those who legit didn't even know they owned genned Pokemon. This situation sucks for everyone involved. Super disheartening seeing all of these players getting DQ'd for valuing their time. My heart especially goes out to those that asked for help on Twitter and got sent Gen Mons. Interested to see if next year's regionals use the same system or if they scrap it outside of Worlds. This is another point here. So I think a lot of people who are anti-Gen assume that everybody who is pro-Gen, or everybody getting disqualified for having Gen Mons, went in and manipulated the files themselves, you know, like pictured them with some kind of like early 2000s futuristic sunglasses typing away on their computer, like hacking into the mainframe. A lot of these cases are people who received Mons via trades. Now, maybe they have somebody that they reach out to that they don't know how this person gets Mons, but they usually are the ones who generate the Mons for them and then trade it to them. They don't know necessarily that these Mons are genned, but because they received them and they were genned, they are the ones getting disqualified for that. Now, you still might be sitting there saying, I don't care. I don't want genned Pokemon competing in these tournaments. But you have to think about what that also implies. It implies that people are able to access all of the Pokemon in any given format. Prior to this series, all of these other tournaments we're talking about earlier in the year, Series C, Series 3, Regulation C, Series 2, Series 1. These were all tournaments that featured Mons caught within Scarlet and Violet. For Worlds and Worlds only, they introduced Regulation D, Series 4. These Mons include Mons from Legends Arceus. They include Pokemon from previous games before Sword and Shield. They include Mons from the Sword and Shield DLC. Ooh, you wanted to use Rapid Strike Urshifu at Worlds this year. Should have thought of that 4 years ago when you evolved your Cubfu, you loser. DQ plus L plus ratio, plus at least you get to go out and enjoy Japan now. We also, zero speed IV Enamorous players right now. It's impossible to get zero speed IV Enamorous. You know, you have to catch it inside of Legends Arceus and then trade it over, but it's not like you can hatch this Pokemon. This begins to venture into a territory of pay to win, because you need to be able to buy all of these games, all of these DLCs, in order to enjoy the Pokemon from them. Now, this is not something that I personally have ever really thought was an issue, because Pokemon has always, to me, been about trading Pokemon from other games, trading with friends that have these other Pokemon, and might have these other games, and you don't need to have that game because you have a friend, or you match up with somebody online who's willing to trade you a Pokemon, and then you can all share in the diversity of these different games, pools of Pokemon. The issue here is that if you cannot Gen Mons, if you cannot generate them within your game, and you need one a specific way, there's no way to guarantee that you're able to get that 0 speed Enamorus, that you're able to get the right Cubfu with the exact right spread that you need to underspeed a certain Pokemon on your team and then overspeed a different one. Because there's no way to manipulate the IVs of certain legendary Pokemon, because you cannot breed them. You cannot hatch them yourself. Cubfu, if it's not right when you catch it, there's no way to get it unless you gen the Mon. Now, I had a question about this, which even if you cannot generate the Mons, even if you do not have the DLC, you do not have you don't have Legends Arceus, the ways to get some of these Pokemon exclusively at the moment in Scarlet and Violet, there's still Pokemon Home. And what Pokemon Home has is a feature called the GTS, which is the global trading system. You can trade with Pokemon, request a certain Pokemon, offer up a different Pokemon, and that way maybe you can get that Urshifu, which is a Pokemon that is very, very good in Regulation D. Enamorus, your Landorus's, your other Genies, can't catch them in Scarlet and Violet. Maybe GTS is your way to access some of those Pokemon. Here, I think, is the issue that I think, even if you're anti-genning, you might see where the problem is with this Worlds issue. My question was, what happens when you attain a Pokemon via GTS on Home, and it ends up being hacked? There's no way all of these Mons are legit. Pokemon does not check the hack status of Mons when they allow people to trade Pokemon on the GTS, on Pokemon Home, an official service provided by the Pokemon Company. There's no way to tell if these Mons are legit, but if you're not the original hacker and you've received it via legit official means, surely they have to let you use it. My friend Rowan Hall here, awesome competitive player, someone who goes to a lot of these events. Nope, DQ. Competitors received an email warning them not to use anything from a trade. Good way to kill their own scene, I guess. So I don't have the official screenshot. I did see one on Twitter at some point. I couldn't track it down. Competitors at this event were sent an email that was warning them, somewhere within the email, said not to use anything from a trade, to be safe, that you weren't using generated Pokemon. But if you're locking off access to any Pokemon received via a trade, despite the fact, not even going to touch the fact that that's the whole concept of Pokemon from the beginning. We had red and blue version, you know what I mean? So that you could trade between them. This is a big issue because it does require that people buy and play through all of Legends Arceus themselves. Buy and play through all of the Sword and Shield DLC themselves. It wasn't an issue to me before, when I knew that it was very easy and possible to generate Mons and put them into Scarlet and Violet if you didn't have a way to get Urshifu. But if you have to literally go and pay the $30 for the DLC to go get that one Pokemon so that you can even compete in Pokemon 2023 Worlds in Yokohama, Japan, which a lot of people need Urshifu on their teams because Urshifu is really good, that's a problem. It's a really big problem. That's pay to win. It's a problem that the TCG has, something that I could never get into TCG because you have to be able to have certain cards and you got to buy them. I then followed up with Rowan. Wait, what? So are they effectively telling players to buy both versions of a gen? It's not just Legends Arceus and Pokemon Scarlet. You have to have both Scarlet and Violet if you want to compete with a team that has version exclusives, right? So if you want Zangoose and Seviper on your team, they always split those two up. Now, those Pokemon aren't good, but you know what I mean? Like, there are Pokemon that are exclusive to one version and then exclusive to the other version. And you need to buy both $60 games if they're telling you you can't, like, don't use traded Mons to be safe. So what they're saying is you need to buy both versions of the game to be able to trade the Mons to get the same team with both version exclusive Mons. They have full control over the pricing of these games, which Pokemon are in these games, which Pokemon are good, which Pokemon are allowed in any individual rule set. It gets a little shady from there. And then Rowan followed up by saying, better make sure you've never traded at all, because they'll also DQ you if there's anything genned in any of your boxes. So that means, just to be safe, anytime you've ever received a Pokemon via GTS, anytime you've ever received a Pokemon via Wonder Trade, I know I'm not alone in saying that I've received Pokemon via Wonder Trade that were definitely hacked. I'm looking at you, Machamps.com. You can't have any of them anywhere in your box, because at that point, they will disqualify you from official events, despite these services, Wonder Trade and GTS, being official services provided by the Pokemon Company. It's easy for somebody from the outside to look at this issue and say, why are the people who are generating Mons cheating complaining about being caught for cheating? But that's not what it is. You're not getting Pokemon that are better than other people's Mons. You just spent less time getting those specific Mons. It doesn't mean, by the way, that you spent less time preparing for the tournament, because typically the reason you're generating Mons is because you're making a lot of iterations of this team and you're trying to get it right. All the time that you're spending team building and adjusting the EVs and adjusting the Terra types and all of that, that all happens on Pokemon Showdown. That all happens in your private ranked matches in which you're testing your team. All of that is time spent preparing for a tournament. And then the individual 6 Mons that you gen to get to lock in for your team, those are received faster, whereas other people who make their Mons spend that entire preparation time creating and getting that 6 Pokemon party together and just hope that it's good. So it's not even really that you're spending less time necessarily. You know, experiences will vary, but to the outsider's perspective, it might seem that cheaters are complaining about being caught cheating. Really, I found a couple of metaphors that I think break it down a lot more sophisticatedly. We have Steve Magnitude, the creator of Draft Format. My take on genning: if the ceiling is the same, genning or not, then I don't get why anybody cares. To me, it would be like requiring MLB hitters to make their own bats before getting an at-bat. If you suck at the game, the time spent making the tools won't make you better. I think that's a pretty good analogy. Another one: imagine you play chess on a professional level. Now imagine you have to bring your own chess pieces to a tournament. Figure some competitors print their pieces with 3D printers using a common file, while others rather carving them in wood manually. Some people want to 3D print them using a file provided to them, and some people prefer to go and carve their pieces. There's no problem. People who are pro-gen do not have an issue with anybody who wants to create their own Mons, who want to carve their own chess pieces. But let's say all the wood carving sets go by the brand from the tournament organizer. You have to use the games created by the company who are insisting that you carve your own pieces. Now figure all those who didn't carve their own pieces get DQ'd from the tournament, in which the skill being measured is how well you play chess. That's what's happening with Pokemon. It's a chess playing tournament. It's not who's got the prettiest pieces. As long as the pieces are only able to, move diagonally. This is a chess playing tournament, and people are getting disqualified because they 3D printed their pieces. Another really great tweet from my friend Rowan here. Work enough to afford travel around the world all year to qualify for Worlds, then travel to Japan. Or have enough free time to soft reset for 0 IV legendaries across multiple generations, DLCs, then grind Terra shards for hours. Pick one. This kills the esport. And again, it touches on something I was saying before. It is easier to make Mons in Scarlet and Violet than any other game before. But to make a single team is one thing. Once you've settled on it, a lot of these players are going out there and realizing they want to change their Terra from water to ghost, right? They want their Urshifu. They wanted to run it Terra water. So they put 50 Terra Shards on that Urshifu to make it a water type. And now they're realizing, oh, you know what? I do want it to be Ghost because I've been testing it, and I'm realizing that a lot of people are running E-Speed Dragonite. A lot of people are running Fake Out. I want to switch it to Ghost Terra. Now they have to spend 50 more Terra Shards, grind for those Terra Shards, which, by the way, are not always available if you're using the actual legit means of grinding Terra Shards. Every day they reset. And you have to put 50 more Terra Shards on that Urshifu to get it to be a Ghost type. That is difficult and time-consuming. Now, we like to look at both sides of an argument, of course. We can't just gang up on anybody who wants to, you know, who thinks the other thing should be true. So let's look at some examples of other people's perspectives. The mindset of some VGC competitors is odd. You would expect an athlete to be Dequeued if they were taking performance-enhancing drugs. Then why are they getting up in arms when players are found to have hacked Pokemon? The cognitive dissonance is outstanding. I think the obvious thing here is that this metaphor does not work. It's not performance enhancing. You know, my Urshifu is your Urshifu. The difference is you caught your Urshifu, and they do the same thing if we've done the same kind of training. It's funny people are making arguments about the amount of time spent making a team because they work a 9-to-5 job. Honestly, I think Gen 9 is the most accessible game for competitive. I work 70 hours a week and still have plans on playing competitive online someday. So why aren't you playing? Why someday? Why do you have plans on playing someday? What is the reason you can't start playing right now? I think I know what it is. I don't think you know what it is. Now, this whole genning controversy, knocking out, you know, dozens of players that spent all year earning their trips to Worlds, and a lot of them didn't qualify for day 2, but they still attempted to by spending money and, you know, going to all this time spent going to these regionals to try and get there, and maybe fell short, so still went to day 1, and then this is where all these DQs were happening. This was not even the only issue at Japan Worlds. There was another problem once we got into the top cut, which is that the LAN disconnection forced multiple top 16 matches to be played in sudden death. They tried to use this new spectator mode that I don't know if this is what ended up being the reason why the matches were disconnecting. I know that it also resulted in some bug in which it was revealed to spectators before it happened which Mons were getting statused into turn. So the turn would start and a Pokemon would be asleep in the animation before Spore was used on it, stuff like that, which is another whole very, very silly thing. But for whatever reason, the LAN disconnection was really messed up in top 16 and forced a bunch of disconnects in top 16 of the World Tournament for 2023. And what resulted was that the rule went to it being a sudden death match. And what happens, in case you weren't aware, I wasn't, during sudden death, players begin a new game. Players are required to gain an advantage in the number of remaining Pokemon over their opponent. After each turn has been completed, tournament staff will determine the number of Pokemon that each player has remaining to determine if an advantage has been gained. So basically, every turn, the judges check and say, do you have 4 Pokemon? Do you have 4 Pokemon? Keep playing. You have 4 Pokemon. You have 3 Pokemon. It's over. The person with 4 Pokemon wins because that's sudden death. This is against what a lot of teams are built to do. So many teams are built around your early Pokemon being like a really flimsy Pokemon, a Talonflame. You set up the Tailwind, it goes down, and then the Pokemon in the back benefit from that Tailwind. Your Annihilate comes out, it uses Final Gambit. It messes with one person's Pokemon, right? Knocks them down really far if they're Focus Sash or something, and then you get a new Pokemon in, and suddenly that Pokemon, because of the positioning, because of the pivot, you're able to then perform really well. Both of those teams in those scenarios are eliminated before they ever get the chance to do their thing. So some teams are immediately so disadvantaged by this ruling, and it was happening in top 16. That's really, really bad. A couple of the cases. Here's Edu. It appears the LAN system shut down, causing the 3 remaining top 16 matches to disconnect. This is Emilio. Was about to win top 16 against Maddie, but we DC'd in an auto win position for me. I'm never playing this game again. We had to play sudden death as a result. I genuinely cannot believe the incompetence of the Play Pokemon circuit and its rulings. So Emilio was about to win But the rules were, because they disconnected, they started over again, and they played sudden death, and Emilio lost. Despite his, apparently, I didn't see the game, win position. Could you not just force a disconnect somehow if ever you were about to lose? Here's another one. Lost in top 16. I was in a 50-50 spot game 3, but the game crashed and we played a sudden death that I lost. My team was at a disadvantage against his in the sudden death. Again, this is something that could happen to anybody, and then just because of the way that your team was built, like, you cannot prepare for Worlds assuming that later in the tournament, all of the games are going to disconnect, and so you build a team that's good at sudden death. That is not what we need to be learning from this, and I think that's what these rules are incentivizing for the future. So now we have people being disqualified for genning. We have disconnects in top 16, all facilitated by the Pokemon Company, the company that makes the games we're playing in. And it's not over there, because we also have this. We're going to watch this X video here on Elon Musk's xtube.com announcing the 2024 location of Pokemon Worlds. It's going to be Honolulu, Hawaii, everybody. Obviously, really bad timing. Hawaii is experiencing some really bad wildfires that are ravaging some of the local towns and environments in the islands. Really not that they could really help it. You know, they had to announce the location of Worlds, and it was happening here. Pokemon did address this. They then sent out a Zeet saying, our hearts go out to all those who have been impacted by the devastating wildfires in Hawaii. To support relief efforts, the Pokemon Company International is making an immediate monetary donation of $200,000 to its partner at Global Giving through its Hawaii Wildfire Relief Fund. That's not the problem, though, because even aside from these wildfires, it's a little bit tone deaf picking Hawaii as a location, because it's pretty well known that the people of Hawaii, the natives, don't like tourism. They don't want people coming from outside to their homes, to their island, and setting up events for more people to fly in, take up space, take up resources, and enjoy their land and then leave. Any event should really be taking this into account before going to Hawaii. Pokemon is certainly not the only company that does things like this. And I think that this is actually a pretty good summation, because here's Reversal again, who I did cite before as having a really nice tweet regarding, I think, being understanding about people who spent thousands of dollars being Dequeued. Before I get into this tweet, I want to say that I think this is coming from a pretty positive perspective. I just don't think that everything's being thought out in what's being said here. There are a lot of people saying Pokemon is donating only $200K. Firstly, at least 95% of people saying don't even donate themselves. So get on that before you say anything. People don't have a lot of money. It's the reason people are upset about the Regulation D rule set going into effect at the same time as all of these genning hack checks, right? All of a sudden, I'm expected to spend way more money, even more money than I spent getting to Japan. This is like, we're getting away from Pokemon now, but, you know, something that I said also on Twitter is, it's like saying to somebody, you know, stop complaining about climate change if you're not recycling. Not everybody's able to recycle. You should recycle if you can recycle. And also there are full companies like pouring garbage and oil into the ocean, which regardless of how much you as an individual recycle, they're the ones that need to stop and do better. And so in this case, I think Pokemon probably could have paid a little bit more than $200,000. In fact, I saw somebody calculated this. I don't know, you know, all of the math on this, but Pokemon's worth $88 billion, right? And somebody calculated that $200,000 is less than 0.00023% of their net worth. Just as a quick comparison here, I looked it up. The average American bank account savings account holds $11,300. If we multiply that by 0.00023%, which is the amount that Pokemon donated, you end up with $2.60. Yeah, you could donate $2.60 to the Hawaiian Wildfire Relief Fund, or you could buy a bacon, egg, and cheese. Donate money to the wildfires, and also it's not wrong to expect companies worth way more to donate way more than that. Also, the Pokemon Worlds 2024 coming to Hawaii, it will bring so much tourism, commerce, and exposure. The value of this is genuinely insurmountable and undervalued as a whole. This is a bad viewpoint to have. Again, I don't think that this is meant in any malicious sort of way. It's a mindset that is certainly ingrained in us. I don't think that reversal is like American or British, but I'm really getting into it now, guys. You're learning a lot more about Will the person, not just Pokeberm the YouTuber. A lot of American schools and teachings and textbooks, teach us about this kind of thing, this sort of capitalist mindset of going places and helping them. We're helping them because we have things that they don't have, and if we go there, then they will be bolstered. Their economy will thank us for coming and doing this thing. Not every culture values money as its top priority. And I think that Hawaiians have pretty historically stated that their priorities lie in nature, lie in community, people. And the more we go places and bolster their economy, we also invite industry, we invite gentrification. It pushes people out of their cities. It pushes parking lots into their nature. And that is the issue. We don't need to go places, We don't need to go more places to help them. Go to New York City. Go places where there's already stuff. End rant. And we're going to go back to Rowan here because Rowan's my buddy, and I think that he was tweeting really good things all weekend. To sum up Worlds, outdoor registration lines in the sun for hours. Didn't even touch on that. Apparently, a lot of the infrastructure for the tournament itself, the event planning there, was not super practical. Stream difficulties causing delays day one. Didn't mention that either. Hack check DQ drama. Self-inflicted disconnects for all of top 16 resolved by sudden death. And objectively awful decision for next year's location. Gang. Lots happened. We haven't even talked about the fact that Raikou's a giraffe now. And, the thing that I think is the bigger question is, believe it or not, content creators, which is where I'm coming from. I'm not somebody who goes and competes in all these tournaments. I went to one this year. It was really fun. It was my first one ever. I made my team for that tournament in-game. I just wanted to do that. I practiced a ton and team built a ton beforehand using Pokemon Showdown, which if there are people out there who are anti-gen and are all pro making their own Pokemon because that's not cheating, and they're going and using Pokemon Showdown, an unofficial service that is technically not condoned by the Pokemon Company, okay, that's hypocritical. Did a lot of work on Showdown. I genned my team to practice with it in cartridge so I could get practice with it on the ranked ladder. The pairing system on the ranked ladder is very different than Pokemon Showdown. Anybody will tell you that. And then I went and I made my team from scratch, okay? And it took a while. Everybody who was with me at Hartford was watching me do it all the way up until midnight the night before, okay? It does take a while. And it's just not something that every player can do for every tournament. It's not. It isn't. Content creators like me are people who make new teams all the time. And my teams, spoiler alert, I'm not making all those Pokemon from scratch. You think I'm making 3 teams from scratch every single week to make the videos? You think I'm catching 2 Enamoruses, which requires playing through Pokemon Arceus 2 times to get one that's 0 IVs and one that's 31 IV? Content creators haven't had anything to worry about yet because the ranked ladder has not been implemented with whatever these new hack checks are. I'm not saying that they ever will be. I'm not scared. I wouldn't be surprised if it never is implemented. If it ever is, a lot of us are in trouble. A lot of us would not be able to turn out the content. And quite frankly, nothing disinterests me more than having to make even just one new team every week from scratch to make a video for you all. I need to try new stuff. I need to try it quickly. And big changes would have to happen if that were ever to be what it comes to. The other thing is this. If things keep moving in this direction, a lot of anti-gen people also suggest that if people all make their own teams, it would be a better situation. But what would happen in that scenario if they do just hard check all of these hacks and stuff in every single major tournament moving forward? It's not going to be that everybody starts raising their Pokemon. The other thing that's going to happen is that people are going to charge money to train Pokemon. That's already a thing that happens in the shiny community. That's already a thing that happens in some of the Pokemon team building community already. Since day one of Worlds, people have made offers. I've seen it on Elon Musk's xhamster.com. People are offering, I will go get you a 0 IV Urshifu or whatever for $50. You know, first of all, yeah, charge more than $50. It's going to take you a long time. Okay, that is not a very good hourly rate. But also, you know, if those prices do level out, if people do, it doesn't matter. What's happening there is that the more wealthy players are the ones that are getting the Pokemon that are competitively viable. And that is not where we want to be. And I think that even people who are anti-gen can agree that that is not where we want to be. That people who have more money are the ones that are ultimately the only ones competing because they're the only ones with actual usable mons. Right now, at the very least, I hope that anti-gen people can understand and admit genning is completely free. People don't do it because they're malicious. They do it because they don't have the time and they love the game and it's free. And they're able to make their Pokemon that way. I already mentioned that they spend a lot of time preparing. It's not that they're just looking for some quick, easy thing. They're trying to try a million different versions of a team to figure out what's going to be right. That is why they gen. They don't have the ability to change their Terra type on every single Pokemon multiple times if they're building these Pokemon from scratch. People who have money, if it ends up being that, you know, you can purchase legit Pokemon, they're going to be the ones competing, and that's not where you want to be. That's not where we want this to go. I think the Pokemon Company needs to step in. I think the Pokemon Company needs to do different things. One of those major things is, you know, how cool would it be if we had some sort of service via home that was a battle simulator? If Pokemon made their own official showdown in which you could make Pokemon using their game. Do you know how much people would pay for literally just a Pokemon Showdown official Pokemon game? I'd pay a full $60 right now to be able to go in and just, no story, no even graphics. I don't even care about the graphics, to be honest with you. But if I could make Pokemon and that be what I'm allowed to then use in official tournaments, every single competitive player would buy that in a heartbeat. And I'm not saying make more games for us to have to buy, Pokemon Company, but people don't want to have to gen. People don't want to have to make their own Pokemon game. People want to play your game. They want to play this thing that they've loved for 30 years. So let them do that. It'd be real cool if you did. I don't know if I believe that you will. All right, was that the fun little chat that I promised would be super chill? I hope so. Again, I usually go and make content that is me battling on the VGC ranked ladder. Do go check out those videos if this is your first time watching any video of mine. It's a pretty fun community. I stream every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. I have videos every week featuring new Pokemon with new rental codes that are completely free and available to you that I make myself. And very, very lastly, I just want to say, my friends over there at Pokesports, I don't make any money off of this, but I thought this was just an awesome thing that you should go and support if you're interested. Go get their t-shirt. They have a lot of really great merch, and I think I might be picking this one up myself, or because I'm plugging it here on youtube.com, maybe Kevin and Michael send me one. That'd be pretty cool. Anyway, hit all the buttons on the way out. My name is Pokeberm. If you enjoyed this kind of video, do let me know in the comments below, because I never make things like this, and I just really felt compelled to today. And if you like it, then maybe I'll make more. Maybe. Until next time, my name is Berm. See you later.